Hello, hello. It is show time. What's going on? If you are here, let me know you're here. Good morning. Good morning to everyone. Good morning to the CSEC persons, the CSEC students and teachers, and to those who aren't CSEC students or teachers, but you just enjoy tuning into the live streams and getting some tips and tricks when it comes on to writing, grammar, stuff like that. So welcome to the live. Thank you for being here. I am not intending for this to be a long session. We're looking at transitional words and phrases today. Hi Ashley, thanks for being here. You're always here. You're always here. You're one of my master students. One of my master students. Yeah, and Robin Hood, you have become quite a regular as well. So, welcome back to the stream. We have John King. Thank you for being here. So, yeah, today we're looking at transitional words and phrases. Transitional words and phrases. And these are going to help us to glue our sentences together. These are going to help us to get our ideas flowing coherently, yeah, logically, and we're just going to be improving our writing week after week, Sunday after Sunday. We're going to be learning new ways to improve our writing and just become, you know, excellent students of English. And whether you're doing English A or English B, this channel is the place to be. I didn't intend for that to rhyme. I apologize for the rhyme. But yeah, whether you're doing English A or English B, you want to keep your eyes on this channel because here we do all of that stuff. We do all of that stuff. The live streams might focus a little bit more on English A because more students are worried about English A, but there are lots of videos that I've done and that are to come that also deal with English B. And make sure that if you have missed the previous live stream where we looked at subject verb agreement, if you missed that stream, which we did last Sunday, um, make sure that you watch those videos. So after this stream ends, I edit the stream down into a couple of concise videos. Hey, Janil, thanks for being here. Yeah, so after each stream ends, I edit it down into a couple of concise videos. So that subject verb agreement live stream, that was like, I don't know, an hour and a half, 2 hours. I've cut that down into 3 quick videos that just give you the highlights. So you can watch those videos if you want to just quickly review and revise what we went through. And if you missed the stream entirely, then you definitely need to check those videos out. So today we're looking at transitions, transitional words and phrases. And let's get right into it. Let's get right into it. Let me get my screen ready to be shared. Yeah, we're not wasting time. We're jumping straight into it, straight into it, straight into it. That's where we're jumping. Yeah. All right. Ta ta ta. Here we are. Here we are. Transitional words and phrases. As usual, I'm gonna link up the resources I use in the show notes in the video description. I'm going to link those up at the end so you can check out the materials for yourselves and do some more work and reviewing on your own. Do some more studying, practicing, stuff like that. So we're looking at transitional words and phrases, right? And what these do, as you see in the little subheading here, these words and phrases show relationships within and between sentences. So we're gonna break down everything that we see on these pages. We're gonna break them down, right? So you can show relationships uh, between sentences. So if you have two sentences and you want to connect those sentences, you want sentence A to flow well and seamlessly into sentence B, showing the reader the relationship between these two sentences, how these two sentences relate to one another. You can use transitional words and phrases between them. And if you have one sentence and you want to make that sentence um, just a little bit clearer, you want to make the ideas within that single sentence flow, then you can use transitional words and phrases within that sentence. We're going to look at examples of everything. So this is just an overview. Let's look at this little paragraph here. Very useful paragraph, right? Let me make this bigger. There we go. Transitional words and phrases connect and relate ideas, sentences, and paragraphs. So this means when we're thinking of, hi, good morning, Nez, thank you for being here. When we're thinking about transitional words and phrases, it's not just about sentences, but we can use these to connect paragraphs. This is going to come in very handy when we're writing, let's say, a persuasive or an argumentative essay, and you want those paragraphs to flow well because you want to get maximum marks for expression, organization, that sort of stuff. So back to the little paragraph here. Transitional words and phrases connect and relate ideas, sentences, and paragraphs. They assist in the logical flow of ideas as they signal the relationship between sentences and paragraphs. All right, we're going to skip the rest of it for now. We want to stay focused. And some of the more commonly used connectives, this is just another word for transitional words and phrases, are listed below. So let's take a look at a few examples of transitional words and phrases and how we might be able to categorize them, how we might be able to break them up into different groups based on their function, based on what they do within the sentences. So we can signal addition of ideas. If you have an idea, A, and you want to add another idea, B, or add several other ideas, you can use transitions to make it clear to the reader, or in the case of you students, clear to your marker, your CSEC marker, that you're adding ideas, right? And you can use very basic connectives like and, also, besides, and you can, to. You can make it a little bit more advanced and add transitions like further, furthermore, moreover, in addition, right? And if you want to get pretty fancy and add an idea that is equally important to the one before, you can say of equal importance, blah, 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 right? Equally important, blah, blah, blah. These are just a couple. This isn't even the full list. This is just the tip of the iceberg. These are just a couple of transitions that you can use when you're adding points onto what you already have. When you have an idea and you want to add more to it, you can use any of these or anything like the words and phrases in this group. What if you want to signal time? What if, and this is pretty important for your story writing, your narrative writing, but also important in other types of writing, where you want to make it clear that one thing happened before something else, one thing happened after, one thing happened long after, one thing happened at the same time. How do you show the relationship between ideas in terms of when they happened? You use these kinds of transitional words and phrases. Next, A happened, next B, right? Afterward. Finally, of course, you're going to use this when you're mentioning your last idea in a list of ideas. Later, last, lastly. I'm going to try to highlight the ones that let me use a highlighter. I'm going to highlight the ideas, the words and phrases that I personally use very often. So going back to the signaling addition of ideas, I like, oh, this is a little bit too thick, this highlighter. I like furthermore. Yeah, that's a classic. Oh, still a little bit too thick. Oh, perfect. I like furthermore. I like moreover. I like in addition. I like equally important. So yeah, these are just some of my personal favorites. Of course, you might have different favorites, right? And if you see any of these that you like using or that you think are pretty impressive, you can just let me know in the chat which ones you enjoy reading or writing, right? When it comes to signaling time, I like subsequently. This is a really fancy way of saying, this happened next. I like I like meanwhile, yeah, showing that two things are happening kind of at the same time, concurrently. And you can even use meanwhile when you're showing a little bit of contrast. Um, Boys tend to like physics, meanwhile, girls tend to like English, right? I just made up that sentence right there, even though it might be true. So you can use meanwhile to also kind of show a little bit of a contrast between ideas. I like ultimately. I love ultimately. We can use ultimately when we want to basically say finally. It kind of means the same as finally. So ultimately it's kind of the same as finally, but ultimately just sounds a little bit more advanced. It means this is what the result is, the end result. This is what happens at the end. Ultimately, the decision is yours. In the end, all things considered, when you look at A, B, C, and D, Z, the end, ultimately. So that's a pretty nice transition. Presently is a nice one as well. Just reinforcing that whatever the idea is that you're mentioning is one that is current. It's a present or current idea. And I'll be showing you many examples. We'll be doing many exercises a little bit later on in the stream. But for now, I just want to make it clear what these transitional phrases and words are by giving you loads of examples of them and what their purposes are. So we're going to be using them later on. So no worries. All right, we can use transitions also to signal order or sequence. Yeah, and this one is quite similar to signaling time, but signaling time, basically, you're just telling me when each idea happened, but signaling order, you're telling me when each idea happened in relation to the other ideas, right? So they're quite similar, but not precisely the same. Common ones are, first, second, finally, hence. I like hence. Let me change the color here. I like hence. Yeah. Ooh, I love to begin with. Instead of saying first, if I have a couple of ideas to discuss, I like to begin with, to begin with. I like to begin with, to begin with. Yeah. Yeah. I like in the end as well. Quite similar to ultimately. Right? So of course I'm just highlighting the ones that I like, but any of these could be used to signal order or sequence. What about space and place? We're gonna skip this section for now. These are more prepositions that we won't be using very in the same capacity in essay writing and stuff like that. So what about signaling examples? You give an idea and now you want to give some examples. You talk about social media, for example, Facebook, Instagram. I can't think of a third social media. Oh my gosh, Snapchat, whatever. For example, might be just the most basic. For instance, if you're giving like a case of something happening, that's a good one. To illustrate is a little bit more of an explanation you're giving to it. So an example is kind of explaining or adding more clarity or insight to an idea that you mentioned before. Yeah, and you have others. What about to show results? If you want to show that one thing leads to something else or that one thing results in something else happening, then you can use these ones over here. As a result, of course, that's a pretty basic one. Hence, so, accordingly, as a consequence, I like consequently, right? Thus, since, therefore, for this reason, because of this. So these are just a few examples of transitionals that you can use to show that something leads to something else. Something causes something else to happen. What if you want to signal purpose, why something is happening, why something happened? Then you can use these over here. I don't particularly love any of these, but maybe for this purpose might be a nice one. Or you can use any of these. If you want to compare things, looking at the similarities between two different ideas, then you can use like, or in this. I like in the same manner. I like in the same manner, I also like similarly. Yeah. If you want to indicate contrast, looking at how things are different, then you can use but, in contrast, conversely, however, still, nevertheless, nonetheless, yet, all of these, right? Ooh, I like ironically, showing showing that something is ironic, something is quite unexpected. So that's a good one to throw in as well. And yeah, we have some more uses of transitions, but I think you get the picture, you get the idea. Of course, as usual, use screenshotting to save critical moments in the stream. If you see a list like this and you want a table like this and you want to keep it in mind, you can take a screenshot. You have it for reference, right? I like the transitionals that show um, intensity. So you make a point, and now you're going to intensify that point. You're going to make the point even stronger. Above all, like this is going to be the most important thing I say. Above all, blah, blah, blah. Right? Importantly, just to reiterate that this point that you're going to hear is very important. I like critically as well. And perhaps my favorite is a simple one, in fact. Right? And we have transitions, of course, to summarize stuff. We usually use in summary at the end of our essays, but there are other ways to say in summary. In short is a good one. On the whole is a good one. And we often use in conclusion as well. So in conclusion as well as in summary, these are a bit cliched. We can step out of those and use others that are basically saying the same thing. Yeah. So these are just some of the transitional words and phrases. And what I want you to keep in mind, more than this long list of examples, what I really want you to remember are the different functions of transitions. What do we use transitionals to do? We use them to signify that you're adding ideas, signal time, order, or consequence, signal that you're giving examples of something. You can show the results, the purpose. You can compare and contrast with your transitions. We skipped over this one, but you can show alternatives, exceptions, and objections. So if you're writing an essay and you realize that there's a counterpoint that you want to acknowledge, or something that the opponent might be arguing, or something that you're going to say, okay, I am arguing that social media is excellent and good and great and we love it. But there are a couple of drawbacks. There are a couple of disadvantages, I will admit. So you can use things like admittedly or I concede. I wouldn't use I concede. Never concede. Despite or granted. So yeah. All right. So those are some transitions. I'm going to leave this up here just for a second in case anyone wants to just screenshot this table right here. I'll give you 5 seconds to do a screenshot if you want this table saved in your phone. All right, bam, moving on. Here's another table. I organized this table here. Just another table showing you lots and lots and loads and loads and tons and tons of transitions, right? Showing contrast, we have all of these down here. Addition. So basically what we just looked at, just in a slightly different visual, right? Yeah. Now, let's do a little exercise to see if we understand the purposes, the different functions of transitional words and phrases. What can we use transitional words and phrases to do? We can use them to do so much. We can use them to show contrast, addition, illustration, comparison, consequence, certainty, and up here, signal time, blah, 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 all of this stuff. So what we'll do in this exercise is we're going to be figuring out what each transitional word or phrase is actually doing. So let's read the instructions. Circle the letter that correctly identifies the nature of the underlying transition in each of the following sentences. The nature just means what it's doing, what type of transitional, excuse me, what type of transitional is it? So here we are. It's time for us to get our fingers, our hands ready to blow up the chat with some answers. Number your answers as you go, and I want to see some answers. I'm not moving on until I see some participation in the chat. So we're at number 1. A water main downtown broke this morning. So several businesses had no water for hours. So we have the so here. What is the so doing? Is the so adding something? Are we seeing addition? Is it showing time? Is it comparing? Or is it showing cause and effect? So write in the chat number 1 and write A, B, C, or D. All right, let me see your answer. Guys, we're not even joking. We're moving today. All right, Robin Hood is ready. Robin Hood is always ready. Robin Hood says cause and effect. And Nez agrees. Welcome, Nez. Thank you for being here. Nez agrees. If you see me looking in this direction, I'm just looking at the chat. The chat is here. You are here. The screen I'm sharing is there. The screen I'm writing on is here. So I'm looking all over the place, but just believe me, I'm focused. I'm focused, guys. My mind isn't anywhere but here. Yeah. All right, so there are only 2 persons who are actually wide awake, fully awake in the chat. Where's everybody else? Where's everybody else? 15 people on stream, 13 sleeping. That's not good. We're at number 1. What is this transition doing? What is the so doing? I'll check one more answer and then I'll give you the real answer. I'm waiting for one more answer. Oh man, some of you guys are pretty slow. All right, let's run it. The so here is, of course, cause and effect, right? It's showing that because the water main broke down, several businesses had no water. What's the cause? The water main broke down. What is the effect of that cause? Several businesses had no water. And how do we show that relationship? By using so. And of course, we didn't have to use so. We could use any of the transitions that show consequence. We could use therefore. We could use because. Of course, we would have to put because at the beginning of the sentence or something like that. We could use hence as a result. So you just want to use whichever one feels most appropriate in the moment. And of course, if you're writing an essay, you don't want to be using the same transitional over and over again. So it's good to know at least a couple transitions for each purpose. All right, number 2. Even though most Americans are primarily concerned about AIDS as it exists in the US, it should be remembered that it is now nearly a worldwide disease. So we're at number 2. What is the transition even though doing in the sentence? What is it doing? Even though. Thank you for being here, Berkeley Academy. Berkeley Academy. That's very interesting. I'll have to check you out. Are you really an academy? All right, number 2, even though. Ashley, I know you're here, but I'm not seeing your answers. What's going on? Number 2 is a tricky one. Might be a little bit tricky. Oh, online school in Trinidad. Wow, nice. Robin Hood says addition. Hmm. What's being added to what? Come on, be brave, guys. Be brave. What do you think the answer is? Number 2. What is even though doing? Oh my gosh. Officially Diva says addition as well. All right. Let me help you guys out. I'm going to break up the sentence into 2 sentences, and then you tell me how the sentences are connected. All right. Sentence 1. Okay, I'm going to need a thinner pencil for this. Most Americans are primarily concerned about AIDS as it exists in the US. That's sentence 1. And then we have a little gap. All right, let's see if we can think about this. So we have 2 sentences here. Most Americans are primarily concerned about AIDS as it exists in the US, right? How does that sentence compare or relate to the next sentence that's being connected to it? It should be remembered, this is a hint. It should be remembered. This is kind of indicating something to the effect of, however, don't forget, nevertheless, it should be remembered that it is now nearly a worldwide disease. So we see the Americans, they are concerned about AIDS as it exists in the US. In the US. But we want to remember that AIDS is now nearly a worldwide disease. So what's the idea? What's the idea? There's a contrast here between how the Americans think about AIDS as a US problem and the reality that AIDS is not just a US problem, but almost a worldwide problem. So when you look at these 2 ideas that are being linked, the relationship is, while the Americans think it's just about America, the reality is different. The reality is a very different one. And we have that little hint in it should be remembered, right? So there's quite a bit of a contrast coming out here. Quite a bit of a contrast. Tricky one, a little tricky. No problem. We like tricky questions here. Let's try number 3. Larry will probably be a late bloomer socially, just like his older brothers. What is the just like doing? So we are at number 3. Comparison. Yes, we are comparing. Right? Just like his older brothers, we're looking at two different elements or things, and we're seeing something similar between them. Easy one. Number 4. There are ways you can make boring tasks more pleasant. For instance, bring a portable radio and listen to music on the earphones while you work. Number 4. Robin Hood, you're quick. We're quick with this one. All right, so there are ways, and here we have an example of one of the ways. So it's just an example or illustration. All right, number 5, the lazy checkout clerk forced the 6-pack of cola into the bottom of the bag, tearing it. Then she shrugged her shoulders and said, I guess you'll have to carry the bag from the bottom. Oh, what a rude staff. So number 5, what are we doing here? Number 5, time, right? Number 5, time. This happened, and we could also say sequence if that were an option. One thing happened, one thing happened afterwards. Just showing that A came before B or B came after A. All right, pretty good, pretty good. Let's continue. We have 5 more. Science fiction writer, this person, correctly predicted that satellites would be used for communication. Moreover, in 1947, he correctly predicted that 1959 would be the year the first rocket to the moon was launched. So the moreover, what is it doing? We're at number 6. All right, I'm seeing some additions in the chat. Yeah, definitely. So he made one particular prediction, and we're adding that he made another prediction. So moreover is adding one idea to the next. Welcome, Georgia Stewart. Number 7, some people in New Jersey built their houses very close to the shoreline. Consequently, they have had to spend a lot of money trying to protect their property from the sea. Lucky number 7, what's happening with the consequently here? All right, I'm seeing the answers are getting faster. We see cause and effect there. We see D, cause and effect. Ashley, A. Oh, D. Oh, you had me sweating for a moment there. Not Rehana. Welcome, not Rehana. I know who you are not, but who are you? Georgia says cause and effect. And yeah, we're showing the consequence of something. It's all in the word, right? So because something happened, something else happened. So definitely we're seeing a cause and effect relationship. All right, pretty good. And Berkeley is ahead of me at number 8. Yeah, this is the speed I want to see for the live streams. Running can make people more aware of their physical surroundings, such as the scent of honeysuckle or the changing moods of the trees. What is the such as doing in number 8? Ashley says C, Robin Hood. following up illustration or example. Yeah, so this is just one of the elements of the physical environment that we can be aware of. So it's definitely giving us an example, such as, for example, yeah. And Ashley is already at number 9. Ooh, you guys are moving fast. Residents complain bitterly about potholes in the streets and sloppy trash pickup. Yet these same people resist paying higher taxes for the improvement of these services. Ashley says B. Not Rihanna. What are you? What question are you answering? You have your contrast. So we have here the residents complain about the potholes. They are complaining about the problems on one hand, and on the other hand, they don't want to pay for the problems to be solved. So definitely there's a contrast here. There's like a very ironic kind of contrast. You see opposites in the mindset. They want it to be solved, but they don't want to pay for it to be solved. Contrast. Last one in this activity here. Telephone interviewing allows for a large number of responses in a short time and at relatively low cost. Moreover, the method permits interviewers to reach respondents at specific times of day. This is an important consideration in the study of radio and TV listening habits. All right, you guys are rapid in the chat. We're definitely adding something here, right? We see that telephone interviewing allows for blah, blah, blah. And we're seeing more things that telephone interviewing allows for. So based on your responses, I think we can identify what the transitional word or phrase is doing. Why is this example? Why is this important? Why does it? How does it relate to CSEC English A? Well, when you have, let's say, your summary, for example, and you read that passage, it's like 3-4 paragraphs, maybe 400 words. You want to know how the ideas connect in your summary passage. You want to know whether something is being added to another idea, whether you're seeing two opposites side by side, whether you're seeing some contradictions or you're seeing some support. How can you tell the connections between the ideas, between the sentences, between the paragraphs? Look for the connectives, right? If you're seeing many connectives, like for instance, to illustrate, for example, then you know that a particular idea is being supported by many examples. If you see something like in contrast, however, on the other hand, you know that whatever idea you just read, you're going to see the opposite idea coming through in the next paragraph or the next sentence. So as Berkeley Academy puts it, comprehension skills. You can better understand a passage if you know how the ideas connect to one another, if you know the relationship between the ideas, right? And of course, it helps with your own writing, because if you want your ideas to flow smoothly, you need to connect your points with transitions. All right, we're going to move on. We're not wasting time today. That's one thing we're not doing. We have another exercise we're going to run through right now. This time, we're going to circle. I want you guys to follow me. Follow me. Don't get left behind. You're moving speedily, but follow along. Circle the letter of the word that correctly identifies the appropriate transition. So at first, we were looking at what the transition type was or what the transition was doing. Now we're going to find what the transition should be. We're going to identify the appropriate transition, and then we're going to add to that and underline the kind of transition that you have used. All right, so first, we're going to choose A, B, or C. Which transition goes here? And transition sounds strange when it comes at the beginning of a sentence, but it's still a transition anyway, because you're still linking two thoughts or two ideas. So we're going to choose A, B, or C, and also we're going to identify what the transition is doing. So for each number, you're going to give me two answers. You're going to give me an ABC answer, and you're going to give me what type of transition you think it is. So we're at number 1. Let me see if you guys are really following. Number 1, I see some C's. I'm seeing some C's, but you guys aren't telling me what type of transition it is. Is it addition? Is it cause and effect? Or is it time? So it's a two-part question. These are two-part questions. Ashley says time. Yeah, this is how I want the answers. 1C time. That's a clear answer. All right, definitely we need before here because nevertheless and because just don't make any sense, right? Before the invention of the television, we're showing time. We're showing that one thing happened and then another thing happened. One thing happened before something else. All right, number 2, ABC, and then the type of transition. We're at number 2. So you can give me an answer like this. 1C time. That's the way to answer. All right, for 2, see, for instance, illustration, A illustration, A illustration. If you're having company for dinner, try to get as much done in advance as possible. And now we're going to get an example of what you can get done or an example of how you can get as much done as possible. And we have, for instance. We could also have something like, for example, right? For instance, set the table the day before. So it's A, and this is definitely giving us an example. All right, cool. Let's go to number 3. Robin Hood says, even though contrast, see C contrast. What if the correct answer were B? That would be a wicked boyfriend, right? Because I'm very allergic to flowers, like he's definitely setting you up for failure right there. However, the likely answer is C, even though, right? Even though, and this is a contrast because we're seeing a contrast between what is happening and what would have been expected, right? All right, cool. Let's touch on 4. All right, number 4 is too easy. Let's not waste any time on it. This is just a simple simile, as and we're comparing you to the long-tailed cat. So it's a comparison. Pretty easy. All right, number 5. All right, number 5. Because Manny's car stereo was on full blast, I could see his lips moving, but I had no idea what he was saying. Cause and effect. The cause is the stereo was on full blast. The effect, I couldn't hear what he was saying. All right. So before we move on to the next activity, are we feeling confident so far in transitional words and phrases? What is your confidence level as a percentage? Are you 100% confident, 80% confident in being able to use and identify transitional words and phrases? What's your confidence level? I mean, most of the answers so far have been correct. So I think your confidence level should be pretty high as it relates to using and identifying. 99.9. Wow. All right. 80%, 95%. Yeah, these are some good numbers. Yeah, these are good numbers. It, at the end of the stream, we're going to get into the grammar of where to put the commas, when do we use semicolons and stuff like that when actually using transitional words and phrases in our writing. But for now, we just want to master being able to identify and use them accurately. And at the end, we'll look at the more grammatical side of things. All right, here we are, another task. We're going to underline the cause or effect transitional word or phrase in each sentence. So in each sentence, there's a cause or effect, or sometimes we say cause and effect transition. We have one of those in each sentence. Let's just identify it. This should be super easy because we've been doing harder things. We only have 10 of these. So number one, where is the transition showing cause / effect? We took the ferry because the children hadn't traveled in one before. This is easy. Elementary school stuff, super easy. All right, easy. Because number two, Martin needed help with math and physics, so we got him an expert tutor. All right, number two, yes. So, very good. All the answers are perfect so far. Three, we went to the beach since it was sunny and bright. Yeah, since the school remained closed for 2 days due to snow. Yeah, due to. Five, we ordered food as we were too tired to cook. As. Six, the discussion is not yet over, and therefore Dad will be late for lunch. Therefore. Seven, there was no money in the account. Consequently, the transaction failed. Consequently, number eight, Mr. Carter was widely traveled. As a result, it was fun listening to him. As a result, nine, there are fewer students this year. Thus, there will be fewer buses. Thus, the cost of flying abroad has risen sharply. Accordingly, we are not traveling this year. All right, there we go. Perfect answers. Based on the chat, this was super easy. You guys were quick and accurate. All right, we have some more. This time, we're going to choose the correct transitional word or phrase. We're going to be making sure that we are finding the better option here. All right, here we are. Number one, no breaks, no rest for the wicked. Number one, we have a mouse in the house. Dash, we should get a cat. Easy stuff, easy stuff. We have some hard activities later on, but this is easy for right now. Which transition is showing the correct relationship between these sentences? Yeah, therefore, nice. Number 2, Megan got into a car accident. Furthermore, slash as a result, her insurance rate increased. All right, number 2, yeah, as a result. Yeah, when you get into accidents, your insurance rate increases because you're a higher risk for the insurance agency. All right, number 3. Michael is very athletic and plays on the school basketball team. Blank, his brother just stays at home and plays video games all day. All right. Oh man, you guys are at number 4 already. Man, seems I'm the one lagging behind. All right. We see the contrast between these two. One brother doing one thing, the other brother doing the opposite. So we have, however, number 4. You guys have, for example, there are many occupations, and we have many examples of these applications of these occupations, and both of these transitions do the same thing, but grammatically speaking, we need, for example, yeah. If we were to use such as, there are many occupations today. Um, we'd have to say comma, such as, and then we would have to say medicine, engineering, teaching, etc. So same function, but it's just used in a slightly different way grammatically. All right, I'm on to number 5. The U.S. government has been spending its money recklessly for too long. Blank, the plans that Congress proposes are destined to put the nation at great economic risk in the future. Number 5, as a result, yeah, good job. 6, I'm seeing your answers for 6 already. Getting a college degree is important. Blank, building a good network of friends is crucial. Yeah, even more importantly, we're not concluding anything here, right? 7, I'm already seeing an answer for 7. Hawaii is a beautiful place to live. Blank, Siberia is a very inhospitable location. We're seeing two opposites, beautiful place versus inhospitable location. So we have on the contrary. All right. Oh, how many do we have? Ooh, we're going to 20. All right, let's speed it up. We're already going fast, but let's go even faster. These are too easy. Eating well will help you live a healthier life. Blank, exercising every day is also highly recommended. Yeah, definitely. Moreover, we're just adding to that previous idea. There's no consequence here. 9. Do you enjoy completing these grammar exercises? Blank, you should be able to improve your writing skills in no time. Yeah, we have consequence, and yeah, we have consequence. because if you enjoy the exercises, then the consequence or the result is you're going to be able to improve your skills in no time. Welcome. I see Michaela and Rhonda and Alicia, some new persons in the chat. Not new, but perhaps just I'm just seeing your names for this session. All right, number 10. Without getting a college degree, it will be difficult to get a job. Blank, some will say it's not what you know, but who you know. Hey, Michaela. This one is, however, because we're seeing a contrast, right? We see one person or one set of people talking about the degrees, the way it's what you know. Another set is saying it's all about links and connection and networking. So we need that contrast, however. 11, the economy looks like it's improving. Blank, with unemployment still very high, we are far from passing through the recession. Hi, Alicia. Thank you for being here. All right, the economy looks like it is improving. However, because we have opposites here, improving, but employment is still high, so it's going to be hard. Opposite ideas, so we need that particular type of connective. 12. Dr. Xavier gave his patients other forms of medical treatment. Blank, Dr. Magneto's patients only took sugar pills. As a result, Dr. Xavier's patients healed more quickly than Dr. Magneto's patients. X-Men references for those who didn't get it. Right. On the contrary, we see two very different types of medicinal approaches. So we need something that is showing contrast. In this case, on the contrary. 13. First, the author assumes that the two groups from these studies are the same group of people. Blank. Considering these kinds of studies are based on random sampling, the first group may not be the same people who responded in the second study. We're on to 13. 13, we see that in the first sentence, someone is assuming that the groups are the same, but in the second sentence, we're seeing that they might not be the same. So we need something showing that contrast, which is however. Right? 14, studies have proven that not only wine, but also a beer can be good for your health. Blank, only one drink a day will have helpful benefits. Beyond that, drinking will cause more problems. Robin Hood, see? You're going too fast now, Robin Hood. What do you mean 14? Rhonda, therefore, Alicia, therefore. What am I missing? Let me reread it. Studies have proven that not only wine, but also a beer can be good for your health. Blank, only one drink a day will have helpful benefits. How are you guys seeing therefore? It's however. Contrast. Yeah? Contrast. What is the contrast? beer and wine can be good for your health. The contrast is if you drink too much, it's going to be bad for your health. So you should only drink a little bit. Even though it's good for your health, anything more than just one is bad for your health. So we see the contrast. Yeah? All right, 15. Getting a degree from law school is a great accomplishment. Blank, it does not guarantee that one will have a job after graduation. You better believe it. However, we again see that contrast. Getting the degree is great, but you not having a job after graduation. Yeah. 16. We're almost at the end of this activity. Moving from one country to another can result in culture shock. However, in addition, the language barrier that many immigrants face can lead to a long life of hardship. We're at 16. Remember to number your answers, guys. So let's look at the two ideas here. Moving from one country to another can result in culture shock. That's the first idea. Then we see that language barrier can lead to a long life of hardship. So we're adding to the problems that you can face, right? Culture shock is one problem. We're adding another problem. So we need a transition that shows addition, such as in addition. All right, they're getting it, Rhonda? That's what I like to see. Good, good, good. 17. The author's assumption that men are inferior to women is severely lacking. More importantly, or however, she does not bring up a valid point that men are unable to give birth to babies. Oh, sorry. She does bring up a valid point. She does bring up a valid point. Okay, 17 is going to be, however, we're seeing a contrast here. What is the contrast? The person writing this sentence thinks that the writer is wrong to assume that that men are inferior to women. But we see that the person who writes this sentence is giving the author a little bit of credit. They're agreeing with one thing the author says. And so we need, however, to show that little bit of contrast. I disagree with most of what you say, but I agree with this one thing, contrast. And some good transitions that we could use here. Let me pause for a bit and show you some transitions that could work well for these kinds of sentences. Uh, Way up here. Transitions to signal alternatives, exceptions, and objections. So something like admittedly, I concede, I grant, granted. Words like these are pretty good to use when you want to like disagree with someone for the most part, but agree with one thing they're saying. So that's a good kind of example of where you could use a transition like that. Okay, we're on to 18. We're almost at the end here. Lowering the national deficit would bring many positive benefits. Blank, banks would have more money to loan small business owners that could potentially stimulate the economy. All right, you guys are saying, for example, yeah, this is an example of one of the benefits. 19. A ceasefire between North and South Korea has been in effect for 50 years. Blank, without a peace treaty, the potential for another war is always there. Rhonda, are you sure? Are you sure, Rhonda? However, there's a contrast. We see that there's a ceasefire and there has been peace for a long time. And what is the contrasting idea? If there's no peace treaty, war is going to come at some point. Yeah. And last one here. He is blank a hard worker. All right, Nez, take it easy. Thanks for being here. Number 20, he is indeed a hard worker. And the indeed here is showing intensity or emphasis. All right, guys, pretty good. You ran through 20 questions, but we're not done. Oh, should we take a break? Do we need a break? Are you guys weak? Are you guys good? Do you need a break? I have many more exercises for you, many more opportunities to practice transitional words and phrases. Let's take a little breather. Let's take a breather. Take a little break. While we're taking a break, I'll ask you guys one question. What is the most difficult Ashley said we're good. Just answer one question. After this one question, we'll get back into it. What is the most difficult thing about English A for you guys? Is it reading, writing, comprehension, summary, story? Like what do you find difficult in English A? It's an important question because I'll take your feedback and I might implement, or I might take into consideration some of these things for my upcoming live streams and videos. What are you guys struggling with? Elisa says summary. Summary. If you're struggling with paper 2 stuff, believe me. I mean, I have some paper 2 videos and stuff like that, but I also do CSEC classes. I do English A CSEC classes twice a week on Saturdays and Sundays, and I also do English B CSEC classes twice a week. So I do 16 CSEC classes every week. If you're struggling with paper 2 writing stuff, I would suggest you join my class. That's what I would honestly suggest. I mean, the YouTube videos are good and stuff, but yeah. If you're struggling with anything like paper 2 related, like those hardcore stuff, yeah. See, his classes are lit. Literally lit, right? Because I do literature as well, English B. So maybe an unintended pun there from Ashley. Yeah, you guys can check out the classes, and I won't like post up the links in the chat and so on because we're getting right back to the exercises. But you can just shoot me an email if you're interested. My email is on the channel. So what else? What are the days of your classes? All right, let me just like real super hyper quick show you guys a little graphic that might help you still to understand what I'm offering. Let's see. So are you a teacher in Jamaica? I used to be. I used to be. Used to be a teacher in Jamaica. I mean, I'm technically a teacher in the Caribbean since on YouTube, right? Does that count? Yeah, but I used to teach like in physical classrooms in Jamaica. Now I teach in Japan. All let me show you guys. We're gonna get right back to the stuff though, but just in case anyone is genuinely interested, I'll give you something you can take a screenshot of. Yeah, so this is what the little flyer looks like. Saturdays, and these times are all in Jamaica time. So if you're in Trinidad, Barbados, somewhere else, you would have to do a little bit of time conversion on your part. But basically, I started doing only Sundays. But starting this month, I'm doing Saturday classes as well. So it's Saturdays at 7 p.m., Sundays at 2 p.m. for English A, and Saturdays at 8 p.m., Sundays at 3 p.m. for English B. And the fee here covers both English A and B, covers both Saturday and Sunday classes. So you basically get everything for one price. If you're doing just English A or just English B or both English A and English B, it's all the same. $20 a month, and you have everything, as well as access to learning materials like worked past papers, sample essays, and stuff like that. And you get all of the meeting recordings that that you would have missed, and not just the ones that you missed, but you get all of them. They're all recorded and saved, and you can access all of that stuff. So when it comes around to exam time, easier revision when you have the lessons that you can look back on. So yeah, take a screenshot of this, and you can just, after this stream or whenever you're ready, you can send me a message. Let me know. Yeah. So let me get back to let me get back to the stuff. Oh, Michaela, you have trouble identifying idioms and errors. Oh, so I guess more on the paper one, English A paper one side. Error recognition. I have some videos on error recognition. Definitely check them out, Michaela. I have some videos where I look at, like, I don't know, hundreds of questions or something like that. Lots and lots of past paper questions on error recognition. So definitely check those out. Yeah. All right, we've taken a little break. Let's get back into it. More work for us. No, we're not getting too much rest today because I want to keep the stream as short as possible. All right, so now we're going to be connecting ideas. Transition words are used in a sentence to connect two ideas. They join clauses together to show a difference. Or Rhonda, you say you're having trouble with vocabulary. Read more, write more. That's my general advice. Read more, write more. Yeah. Hopefully these live streams will help you out with important vocabulary as well. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, we already know this. Skip over the examples and just get right to the task at hand. This is what we're using, this word bank here. We're choosing from these transitions, and we only have 10 questions in this activity. So let's choose the best transition from the box here. All right, let me get myself off the screen so you guys, or maybe I can push this over. Ah, there we go. Nice. All right, so number one, look before you leap. Look carefully before you suggest an answer. right? And there may be more than one correct answer, of course, because we know that there are many synonyms when it comes on to transitional words and phrases. The girls wanted an ice cream cone. Blank, they left the park early. And there's not much context given for some of these sentences, but let's try to use common sense and figure out how these two sentences or two ideas would naturally connect. So looking at number one, what do you think is the best transition from the box we have here on the left? This purple box. All right, you guys say so. I'm not gonna argue. I'm gonna write what you say, and at the end of the day, if we are in trouble, that's on you, because we're only gonna be using each word once. In fact, yeah, here we go. You know what? Let me write both answers, and then we'll figure it out along the way. I'm seeing in fact, and I'm seeing so. So it could be so. It could be in fact. What I'll do is over here, I'll highlight the ones that we have considered so far. So, in fact, any other options for number one? So, in fact, all right, let's go to number two. Mother didn't have time to go to the store. Blank, there was no milk in the refrigerator. Robin Hood says we could use therefore. Okay. All right, so we have number two. Rhonda says although for number two. Cancer number two. Really? Is it clear now? I think it should be clear. Mother didn't have time to go to the store. Blank, there was no milk in the refrigerator. You're only seeing from three? I'm seeing from three. I don't know why. I'm seeing from one on my screen. Maybe you can refresh the page. That might help. I don't know. Oh, seeing now? Good, 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 good. Rhonda not sure about number two. Robin Hood says consequently. All right, I'm gonna write down whatever you guys think might be it. Let me write down consequently and highlight it over here. Anything else for number two? Gia, I haven't done any videos on report writing. Yeah, sorry, Gia, not yet. Hopefully this year I'll do live streams or videos on report writing. But I'm to be honest, I'm really focusing on my actual CSEC class or paper two stuff this year. However, Rhonda, all right, consequently slash however, let's see. Mother didn't have time to go to the store. How did you get however here? Well, we're gonna see later on if it's fine or not. I mean, we're almost out of options already, right? All right, number 3. Please remove in fact from number 1. I was only seeing from number 3. Ah, I understand. So we're gonna move in fact, and I agree with moving in fact. Yeah, I don't think in fact matches here. So in fact is now safe. And you're saying in fact is good for number 3. And I like in fact for number 3. I like in fact. Robin Hood likes actually. So let's say in fact slash actually. In fact slash actually. All right. So here we have so slash therefore. And Rhonda, you're saying similarly could work for number 3? Similarly? Why similarly? All right, let me write it down. Similarly. Let me give it a chance and see if it works out. All right, number 4. James and his team didn't finish the project. They did not work hard. Oh, sorry. They did work hard. They did work hard. All right, for number 4, I'm seeing 2 options. I'm seeing although and I'm seeing nevertheless. So let me write those down. I'm seeing although. I'm seeing, and these are both kind of synonyms, right? So that's expected. Seeing although and I'm seeing nevertheless. All right, I'm not giving my comments on whether I think these are correct or incorrect just yet. I want us to get to the end and see if we can figure things out together. Number 5, you can come with us if you are ready. You will have to ride the bus. I'm seeing otherwise. Okay, finally we have one that seems unanimous. Ooh, wrong pen. Otherwise, all right. Bam. All right, number 6. It is important to complete your homework. It should be turned in on time. Robin Hood says, in fact. Music lover, thanks for being here. Wow, we're seeing 3 different answers. In addition, in fact, therefore. Which is correct. Therefore. All right, let me write all of these down. I'm seeing in fact as an option. I'm seeing therefore as an option, and I'm seeing in addition. All right, those are some shaky options. Some of those are shaky, but let's move on and then we'll fix it up at the end. 7. Mrs. Simpson can be grumpy sometimes. We should help her whenever we can. I'm seeing yet from Berkeley. Anything else? I'm seeing nevertheless. And those two are very similar. I'm seeing moreover. What are you guys talking about? Moreover? Oh boy, moreover. Are you kidding? All right, let's go to it. Students should be quiet during the play. Applause at the end is allowed. Runner says nevertheless. Berkeley says however. Oh, Rhonda says however, right? Not nevertheless. Okay, we have instead from Robin Hood. All right, two more. We're wrapping up. Number 9. The Johnson children get an allowance every week. They earn money for completing chores. Why did directly call me? All right, I see particularly from Robin Hood. I also see in fact from Music Lover. All right, final one, number 10. The rhino in Africa is threatened with extinction. Many species of gorilla are also endangered. Okay, we see similarly here, and we see furthermore, and we see moreover. My goodness. All right, so we've used all of these options too many times. So let's see if we can go through and make some corrections and ensure that everything is picture perfect. There are multiple possible answers, but some answers here are definitely wrong. Oh dear, we have in addition as well for the last one. All right, so let's head back to number 1 to sort this out. The girls wanted an ice cream cone, so let's look at the relationship. Let's look at the relationship between the ideas. The girls wanted an ice cream cone. They left the park early. And so and therefore are both pretty much synonyms here. But because this is a little tricky, because they have a comma here instead of a semicolon, it's better to go with so. If you're going to use therefore, you would want to offset this with a semicolon. And we're going to get into the the technical grammar of it a little bit later on. That's going to be the last thing we look at. So, so is a better answer for number one, even though these two are actually synonyms. All right, we're going to work with so for number one. Let's look at number two. Mother didn't have time to go to the store. Consequently, or however, there was no milk in the fridge. Based on my interpretation here, there's not much context given, so my interpretation might not necessarily be correct, but I think it's correct, right? Mother didn't have time to go to the store. She didn't have time, and I think because she didn't have the time to go to the store, there was no milk. There was no milk. Why was there no milk? Because mother didn't have time to buy milk at the store. So, however, wouldn't work. However, would be showing contrast. We need something like consequently that's going to be showing consequence. So we could say consequently, we could say therefore. Yeah. So this could be consequently or therefore, number two. That's what I'm seeing. Number three, there's no homework tonight. There has been no homework this week. So there's no homework tonight. What is the connection between that and there's no homework this week? There's no homework this week is kind of it's a similar point, but it's like a bigger, stronger, more important point. So there's no homework tonight, and so I think in fact is the best one here. Actually isn't actually bad. Actually isn't bad. We could perhaps keep actually, but I wouldn't keep similarly at all. Because we're not just seeing a similarity, we're seeing one point expand into like a bigger, more important point. No homework tonight, no homework all week. Yeah. So it could be actually, but I think in fact is the best option here. All right, so I want to keep both for now. I might eliminate one by the end. Number four, James and his team didn't finish the project, and we see an opposite idea. Next, they did work hard. Although is not bad, but because we have a semicolon here, although wouldn't work. We're going to get into the grammar later on, but although wouldn't work with a semicolon. So we're going to remove it. So I think we're stuck with it nevertheless. Number five, you can come with us if you're ready. Otherwise, you will have to ride the bus, obvious one. Six, it is important to complete your homework. Blank, it should be turned in on time. We're seeing an additional requirement to the homework. So we're going to work with in addition. Yeah, we're seeing an additional requirement for the homework, so we're going to work with in addition. Mrs. Simpson can be grumpy at times. We should help her whenever we can. So I'm kind of seeing a contrast here. She's grumpy, and a contrasting idea would be helping someone who is grumpy, right? So I don't think we could work with moreover. We're not really adding points here. I think nevertheless is a little bit better than yet here because of the punctuation. Number eight, students should be quiet during the play. Blank, applause at the end is allowed. I think, however, is a little bit better. Just showing simple contrast. I'm going to work with however. Instead isn't really all that bad, but however is a little bit better here. I would use instead if the same sentence or phrased a little bit differently. For example, you should not applause during the play. Instead, you should applause at the end. So even with the same meaning, I would want to change the wording a little bit if I were to use instead. 9, the Johnson children get an allowance every week. Blank, they earn money for completing tasks. I like particularly. In fact, doesn't really make much sense here because we're not moving from one point to like a bigger, stronger supporting point. So I might keep particularly. It's kind of giving the specifics of what the allowance is about or why they get the allowance. Well, I'm not sure what the sentence is trying to say. I'm not sure if they're getting the allowance. I'm not sure if they're getting the money in addition to their allowance, or they're really telling us what the allowance is about. Could be either, depending on what the writer meant. Number 10, the rhino in Africa is threatened with extinction. Blank, many species of gorilla are also endangered. This one is obviously similarly, we're looking at how two different species are in like the same situation. So for number 3, maybe I'll just remove one of these. There's no homework tonight. I think these are equally correct, but I'm going to keep in fact, just because I need to keep one. But actually could also work, right? I haven't checked the answers for this actually, but let me see. I think there are some suggested answers. So let's see. So, and it says here, students' answers will vary. Examples, these are just examples of correct answers, right? But of course, if your answers vary, the transitions should at least have the same purpose or be like the same type of transition. So let's see if these match the answer key. Let's see, so, consequently, in fact, nevertheless. Oh, I have two neverthelesses. We need to eliminate one. So we need to change one of these to however, right? Yeah, let's change the first one to however. Let's change the first one to however, and the answer key would agree there. Number 5, otherwise. Number 6, it is important to complete your homework. In addition, it should be turned in on time. Furthermore. Furthermore is kind of the same, but maybe furthermore is a little bit nicer for this sentence. Yeah, because it's not just adding something, I guess, but it's also it's adding a point. Your homework should be completed, but it's giving you like one step further, not just completed, but that. So furthermore might be a little bit stronger than in addition. So I concede. I will take furthermore here. Yeah. And addition is also acceptable, but furthermore looks a little bit better. Number 6, nevertheless. 7, nevertheless. Okay. Number 8, however, although, it says here although, but I think however is better. Students should be quiet during the play. However, applause at the end is allowed. Yeah. Oh, but we have 2 however's again. All right, since we have 2 however's, let's change this one to although. All right. We want to stay within the rules and only use each one once. Number 9, particularly. In addition. So it goes back to what I was discussing earlier, not being sure what the sentence is trying to say. Is it giving details on the allowance, or is it talking about an additional thing? So depending on the meaning of the sentence, it could be particularly or in addition. All right, sentence is a little bit unclear. We have similarly, similarly. All right. And these are just some suggested answers, right? Examples of correct answers. You could have slightly different answers and still be okay. The idea is you need to know what the connective is trying to do, what the relationship is between the two ideas. All right, looking at these, are we fine with these? Just to stay within the rules, let me get rid of this. All right. Do all of these sentences make sense with the transitional words and phrases? Looking at the relationship between the ideas present? Make sense? Yeah? Are you guys sleeping on me now? Yeah, I think these make sense. Pretty interesting exercise. Pretty good. Yeah. All right, we're bordering the end. We're nearing the end, and we're gonna end before the stream reaches 2 hours. So don't worry about it. But let's see how much we can do in the meantime. We're gonna read each argument. So we're kind of upgrading the exercise here. It's getting a little bit more difficult. We're going to use transition words or phrases from the boxes to fill in the blanks in the paragraphs. So now we have to look not just at one sentence and adding in a transition. We're looking at this entire argument, and we want to add transitions in a way where everything makes sense. So should I give you guys some time to read the first paragraph here? But what you guys can do is, well, let's go sentence by sentence and then see if we can do it that way. We cannot achieve long-term energy independence by simply extracting and refining greater amounts of limited, non-renewable resources from the earth, even from our own nation's lands. What a mouthful of a sentence. Dash, we must focus our developing renewable energy sources that will not run out or cause harm to the environment. What are we thinking so far for a transition? Looking at the first pair of sentences, we see this sentence in yellow and then this sentence in blue. How can we connect these two sentences? We cannot achieve long-term energy independence by doing this, which is by simply extracting and refining greater amounts of the limited blah, blah, blah. And then we have another sentence. We must focus on developing renewable energy sources. So let's look at some keywords in the sentences to figure out what the relationship is. We cannot achieve long-term energy independence by simply extracting and refining greater amounts of limited non-renewable resources from the earth. That's what this sentence is saying. The second sentence now is telling us what we should do. We must focus on developing renewable energy sources that will not run out or cause harm to the environment. What's the relationship between these two sentences? Are we seeing the continuation of an idea? Are we seeing an example being given? Are we seeing an illustration? Are we seeing a contrast? What are we seeing? We're seeing a contrast. That's right. So which one of these transitions fit most suitably? Looking at the chat here, we have instead, we have instead, we have instead, we have in that case, we have instead, we have instead, we have contrast. Yeah, we see contrast between the two ideas. We shouldn't do A, we should do B. That's what we're seeing. We shouldn't do A, we should do B. We shouldn't do A, instead we should do B. Right? We shouldn't be just using up all of this limited non-renewable energy and focusing on exploiting that. Instead, what we should do is this: focus on the renewable energy sources. Right? So if the ideas are too big and confusing, look for keywords within the sentences and see if there's agreement or disagreement. See how these ideas relate. Definitely a contrast. We shouldn't do A, instead we should do B. All right, let's move to the next one. Blank, that does not mean that we can immediately shut down our production of non-renewable fossils on which we currently rely. All right, so let's follow the story of the narrative, right? We're saying in the beginning, looking at yellow, we can't just dig out all of this energy that's all of this non-renewable energy that's going to be finished in the next couple of decades. Instead, we should look at the renewable energy that will not run out, that will not cause harm. You know, the wind energy, solar energy, stuff like that. And then we're kind of going back on another 180 and saying, well, it doesn't mean that we're going to shut down our productions of the non-renewable fossil fuels. So we already have investments in this kind of energy. We can't just shut down all of this investment. We can't just close down everything. So how do we connect those ideas? All right, I'm seeing in the chat, of course, of course, of course, of course, of course. Yeah, of course. And this is a way in which we are acknowledging that even though this particular type of energy source isn't good for the environment, it's not as if we can just ignore it and just stop using it all of a sudden, right? So we use of course because it's making a point that should be very obvious. I'm not saying that we're just going to shut down all the coal mines all of a sudden. That's going to create more harm than good if we just shut down everything. And that should be obvious, right? All right, next. Blank, we must continue to meet the nation's current and ever-growing needs. Without fossil fuels, this cannot currently be done. So we're on to the next one. How do we connect this idea with this one here? How do we connect the orange to the blue? In other words, in that case, after all, which one? Could it be in other words? Are the 2 points just saying the same thing in different words? They're not just saying the same thing in different words. So we wouldn't say in other words. One is kind of more giving you a reason for the other one. So it's saying, look back at the orange. We can't just shut down our production of non-renewable fossil fuels on which we currently rely. We rely on it, We can't just shut it all down. And why can't we shut it all down? We must continue to meet our current needs. If we're relying on these things, we need them to meet our needs. We can't just shut it down. So we can say, after all, after all, we must continue to meet our current needs. Right? If you want to replace after all, you could say something like, um, uh, how could I replace after all? Maybe ultimately, or in the end, something like that. Yeah. What about the last connection? And it does take some practice to identify these connections. So don't be dismayed if it doesn't occur to you immediately. Achieving a blank, achieving energy independence will require a gradual condition to renewable energy rather than a sudden drastic switchover. In other words, music lover says in other words, Robin Hood says in that case, which is it? All right, take care, Michaela. Thanks for being here. In that case, says Ashley G. Hmm. It's pretty tricky. Well, for me, I'm not really seeing an answer that I'm perfectly comfortable with. I want to write something like ultimately, but I might have to settle for, in other words, or so. In other words, here would kind of mean in summary. It's basically summarizing all of what was said before. In other words, achieving energy independence will require gradual transition to renewable energy rather than a sudden drastic switchover. This is kind of reiterating the three previous points, like in a single sentence. It's not a perfect transition for me, but I think it's the best we have to work with up here. Yeah. Tricky one. You might have a slightly different answer, but I'm kind of fine with how that looks. All right, let's see. Could moreover be a possible answer? I would probably put moreover here and then put after all here. Maybe. I mean, there's so many transitions. So depending on how we really want to connect the ideas, we can have slightly different answers. So it's not. I'm not giving it the gospel here. I just want us to be able to look at individual ideas and try to imagine a suitable connection between them. Yeah. All right, here we are, and I'm working this in real time with you guys. So yeah, it's pretty tough. It's pretty tough, but it's interesting. Yeah. Is it time to do away with the penny? The US Mint, the bureau responsible for producing coins in the United States, spent about 1.99 cents to produce each 1 cent penny in 2019. Dash, it cost about 2 pennies to make 1 penny. What do we think is the first answer here? So we have this, and we need to connect it to this. And it's important to pay attention to the opening sentence here. Is it time to do away with the penny? Hey, KK Boo. What's up? Thank you for being here. How do we connect the pink to the green? So let's look at what each idea is saying, what each sentence is saying. The first one here is saying that the bureau spends about 1.99 cents. This is about 2 cents, right? Approximately 2 cents to produce each 1 cent penny. So it costs them 2 cents to make the 1 cent coin, right? It costs about 2 cents to make one 1 cent coin. And then we have here the next idea. It costs about 2 pennies or 2 cents to make 1 penny. But this in the green is just a simpler way of saying this in the purple. Instead of saying 1.99 to produce the 1 cent penny, we just say it costs about 2 pennies to make 1 penny. It's the same fact reiterated in a simpler way. So we're going to write, to put it simply. Yeah, to put it simply. And we could also say, in other words, if that were an option. In other words, it costs us 2 pennies to make 1 penny. To put it simply, in simpler words, yeah? All right, next up. Blank, millions of taxpayer dollars are wasted every year. Right, how do we connect this next idea? So the first two ideas are building toward this third one. The first two ideas are basically the first idea, or the first couple sentences, is that it's costing 2 pennies to make 1 penny. So they have to actually make the coins, right? But how much money does it cost to make 1 coin? It costs 2 coins. So imagine you're printing $100 bills, but to print each $100 bill, it costs you $200. You're wasting money, right? You're losing money. Someone says for these reasons, someone says as a result. Well, actually, it's one reason. So we wouldn't say for these reasons. Because remember, the green is just repeating the purple. So what we'll say is as a result of this, of how expensive it is to make the pennies, millions of taxpayer dollars are wasted every year. Yeah, as a result, or consequently, stuff like that. All right, next up. Blank, the purchasing power of the lowly penny is almost non-existent. A single penny buys nothing anymore. Robin Hood, I think you're on point here. You're on the money, literally, almost literally. Furthermore, because we're adding an additional point to support the previous point. So we've already stated that making pennies is wasting money, right? Because it costs more than what we're actually getting in the end. To make one penny, it costs two pennies. So we're just losing pennies, simply put. And so taxpayers' money is being wasted. On top of that, furthermore, additionally, moreover, the purchasing power of the lowly penny is non-existent. So not only is it not feasible to create pennies, but pennies don't even serve a purpose anymore because nobody can buy anything with a penny. So what's the point? All right, blank. Many have called upon the federal government to suspend production of the penny and ultimately remove it from circulation. So now we're at the point where people are saying, no more pennies, no more pennies, no more pennies. All right, music lover, take it easy. Enjoy your Sunday. Yes, Robin Hood. Nowhere at for these reasons. So because of everything we've talked about before, because of how it costs too much to make the pennies, and how the pennies are making pennies is wasting taxpayers' money, and pennies are valueless. For all of these reasons, people are saying, let's stop making pennies. All right. The last one, blank. Many Americans are sentimentally attached to the Lincoln penny. They want it to remain in circulation despite the costs. All right, so Robin Hood, you're on the money again. We're having a turning point. Now we're getting to something that is in contrast. So we need, however, it's a contrast because we've just explained why people want to stop the penny from being produced. And now we're getting into the fact that people are attached to the penny and want it to be produced. Right? So we've linked the ideas, we've figured out how they connect, what the relationship between the ideas is, and so we're able to find the correct or the appropriate transitional words and phrases. This one I think was much easier than the previous one. Oh man, woo! We are tired, aren't we? Oh, yo. All right, let's skip. Let's skip that. This one is more about transitions in narrative writing, but we're not really focusing on that right now anyway. So finally, we're going to just look at some grammatical aspects of the transitions, and then we're going to call it a stream. We're just over 2 hours, so it's time to wrap it up. All right, so I'm just gonna focus on a few main points here. When a transitional expression appears at the beginning of a sentence or within an independent clause, I won't have time to explain everything, but I'm highlighting things you should keep in mind, things you need to take screenshots of, and maybe do some additional research on your own time, in your own time. So when a transitional expression appears at the beginning of a sentence or within an independent clause, it is generally set off with commas. There are some examples. Meanwhile, comma, blah, blah, blah. So note this comma here. After the meanwhile, you have a comma and then a continue. Same, as a result, comma, add that comma, and then you continue. And then here we have it in an independent clause. What do we call an independent clause? It's a clause that can stand on its own. It doesn't need to be connected to any other clause to make sense. Right? It's a complete idea. So here we have many of our competitors. Let us cross out the transitional for now and just read the sentence. Many of our competitors are reluctant to bid for the project. It's an independent clause because it makes sense all by itself. If you want to throw a transitional phrase or a sentence inside of this clause, you're going to surround it with commas. You're going to put a comma before and a comma after. Do you understand? We're looking at the grammar of it. So at the beginning of a sentence, you put the comma right after. Meanwhile, however, furthermore, blah, blah, blah. You put the comma after. If you're going to throw this inside a clause, inside an independent clause, you surround it with commas. So let's say you have the sentence, many of our competitors are reluctant to bid for the project. If you want to put a transition in the middle of that one clause, you surround it with commas like this. Many of our competitors, comma, on the other hand, comma, are reluctant to bid for the project. We have another example here. The first speaker, for example, note the commas, was both professional and entertaining. Now, what if we want to put the transition at the beginning? How would the sentence look? We would say, on the other hand, comma, many of our competitors are reluctant to bid for the project. In that case, we only have one comma because it's at the beginning, just like these. And here, if you want to put this at the beginning, for example, we could say, for example, comma, the first speaker was both professional and entertaining. All right, so do you understand how these commas are used? Type yes, no, or I'm not sure in the chat. Do you understand how these commas are used? When you put it at the beginning of a sentence or in the middle of an independent clause? You see the difference? You see the difference? At the beginning here, you have the transitional word or phrase, you have the comma, and then you move on. But if you're putting it in the middle of an independent clause, you put comma on either side of it. You surround it with commas. All right, so remember that point. Next grammatical point. When a transitional expression links two independent clauses in a compound sentence, so remember the independent clause can stand on its own. That means, all right, so when a transitional expression links two independent clauses in a compound sentence, it is preceded by a semicolon, and usually set off, meaning after the transition, with a comma. You have a comma. So when we have two independent clauses and we're going to connect them, we're going to have the transitional word or phrase surrounded not by two commas, but by a comma, but by a semicolon and a comma. And guess what? This semicolon could actually be a period, and you would actually be fine. The first speaker was professional and entertaining. It's an independent clause because this could be a sentence by itself and you could end it right there, game over. Everybody understands. It's independent, it stands on its own. But let's say you want to connect it to another independent clause. For example, this one, the full program was disappointing. So this is one. Let me try to break it down as clearly as possible. Grammar can be very difficult to grasp. So we have one independent clause here. We have another independent clause here. Where are they independent clauses? Because each one could be a sentence by itself. They don't need to be connected. You can connect them if you want to, but they don't have to be connected. They're fine on their own. So if you want to connect them now, just to really make it clear what the connection between them is, what the relationship between them is, then you throw in the transition, but instead of surrounding it by commas, you have your semicolon, and then you have your comma, right? Or you can actually have a period here, and then you start it with a capital letter. You can do it either way. The first speaker was both professional and entertaining. Nevertheless, the program was disappointing. Right? Same here. We have two clauses that could stand on their own. The annual report was critical of budgetary spending. That's a complete thought on its own. The department made the following recommendations. That's also complete on its own. So if you're going to throw in a transition in the middle, what you're going to need to do is put a semicolon, then a comma. Or if you wish, you could end the sentence here and then start the transition with a capital letter. So note the difference between linking two independent clauses and putting this within one single independent clause. In the single independent clause, this is one independent clause. So I'm going to use one color. Many of our competitors are reluctant. This is one. You couldn't just say this on its own. Many of our competitors, full stop. No, it doesn't make sense. The complete clause is many of our competitors are reluctant. So if you're going to throw a transition within that one clause, you surround it by commas. Right? If you're going to put the transition at the beginning, then you just write the transition and you put a comma. All right, so these are the different ways in which transitions can be used. Now, depending on where you want to place emphasis in communicating, blah, blah, should I get into this? All right. Basically, depending on how you want your sentence to sound, we're going to leave it at that. Depending on how you want your sentence to sound, you can put your transition in various places. And you can use this variation to have different sentence types, different sentence flows, and just to add some spice in your writing, add some variation. So you don't have all the paragraphs sounding or feeling the same. So look at these three examples. They're all basically the same idea, but the transition is placed slightly differently in each case. It was a long and difficult journey. Independent clause. However, once we arrived, we were able to relax and enjoy ourselves. Another independent clause. So we have the transition, semicolon, comma. You can write the same sentence like this. It was a long and difficult journey. semicolon, because this is one independent clause, and we're going to attach another independent clause, but this time we're not going to start with the transition. Once we arrived, and now, because the transition is within one independent clause, so now the transition is within the blue, not between the blue and the green, but within the blue, we're going to surround it by commas. Once we arrived, however, we were able to relax and enjoy ourselves. So, in case one, the transition is between the two independent clauses. In sentence two, the transition is not between the two independent clauses, but instead within one independent clause. Look at the third example. It was a long and difficult journey. Full stop. So this is a sentence by itself now. Not just a clause, but a full sentence. We start, new sentence, capital letter. However, and we still need the comma. Once we arrived, we were able to relax and to enjoy ourselves. So this one is very similar to this one. The difference is, instead of a semicolon, we just make these two completely different sentences and end it. These are different grammatical ways in which you can add transitions in the sentences. These are all correct. It just depends on how you want a sentence to flow, depends on what you want to emphasize in a sentence. All right, when you use a semicolon, you pull the ideas a little bit closer together than when you use a period. Yeah. All right, that was a little bit technical, but is it clear? You're gonna need to rewatch this. You're gonna need to revise. I'm not joking. But do you think you're understanding the different grammatical ways in which you can apply the transition so far? Depending on where you want to put it, depending on what punctuation is there, depending on how the dependent or independent clauses connect. It's clear? All right, cool. And here's another way that you could do it. It was a long and difficult journey. Once we arrived, however, we were able to relax and to enjoy ourselves. Yeah. So this one is quite similar to this one here. Yeah, this one quite similar to this one. All right. All right. Skip over that. I don't want to confuse it. I don't want to confuse you guys. All right. I think I'm going to call it that for the grammatical part for now. That's enough to digest for one class. So guess what? Let's call it a day. Let's call it a day. All right. Let's call it a day. So try to keep those grammatical points in mind, and that will definitely set your writing apart and make it clear that you're a master writer. All right, guys, thanks for being here. I'm going to get some sleep. Ashley G, I'm going to see you in class, right? I have my class coming up in a couple of hours, so I'm going to get some rest until then. All right, guys, take it easy. Take it easy. See you in the next stream. For those who are in my classes, see you in class in a couple of hours. Yeah. Bye-bye.